What's up, everybody? It is Bri Dupree, aka The Elder, and welcome to The Elder Podcast, where we talk about all things embracing process, all things life, ministry, and everything in between. I really feel like it's just me and you having a conversation. So please leave some comments, hit me up on social media. I definitely want to make sure that we can interact and kind of talk through some things. It is kind of weird at times, like talking to a camera, because I am an extrovert. And I do like conversations. So there's a big part of me that's like, man, I wish someone could respond back. But don't worry, we have conversations with the Elder coming as well. We're going to bring some of my good friends and spiritual daughters and sons. They're going to come on and we're going to have some conversations. But as for today, I feel like if we're going to hang out for a little bit, if we're going to have these conversations, if we're going to talk, I feel like you need to know who I am. You need to know who Bri is, and you need to know kind of some of my background. I think it's going to give some context for some of the things I'm going to talk about in the future, some of the things that I have in mind to talk about. My goal, you need to hear this, I think, my goal is never to be like controversial for controversy's sake. You know what I mean? Like there's some podcasts I feel like that are out there, and thankfully none of these are on Cultural Studios. Come on, somebody. But there's some podcasts that I feel like are out there where people are just trying to stir up stuff and trying to do clickbait, and especially when it comes to like church stuff and navigating that space. And that's just not who I am. That's not what I want. I'm also just not afraid to talk about the hard stuff. I'm not afraid to talk about the hard conversations. I'm not afraid to have the hard conversations. And I think there's some things within Christianity that we need to have a conversation about. Let's talk through it. I'll give my perspective and my opinion. This is solely my opinion, solely my perspective. I'm always willing to have conversations and talk through some of that stuff. But anyway, before we get to all those topics and those various things that we're going to talk about, one of the things I wanted to do was share a little bit about my story, how I came to know Christ, how I got into ministry, and this might be broken up in several segments depending on how long this takes. So I'll start here. I was raised in a Christian home. I had parents who were serving in ministry from the moment I was born. I don't know life without church. I do not know life without God being mentioned in the home or in our family. And so it was just normal. My sister and I joke that we feel like we were born in the pews. We were always at church. My parents, like I said, served at the church. They served in the music ministry. My aunt was a pastor. It was just I was churched. Okay. I accepted Christ around probably 5 or 6 years old, simply because I didn't want to go to hell. Hello. It wasn't because I had some like an incredible conversion experience, a road to Damascus moment, like, Saul had. It was just me saying, hey, I've seen enough of these felt board Sunday school presentations where I am not trying to go to nobody's hell. So I'm just going to go ahead, say this prayer and say, Lord, come into my heart. And then I'm just going to go ahead about my day. And so I did that. At 5 or 6, again, with I don't think I had any real like conviction in my heart. Started going to Christian schools around middle school, and it's got super involved in that. I've always been a people person, always been involved in student government, always been involved in Bible studies and leading those things. God to show me at a young age that he made me kind of just a natural born leader in some ways. And I don't say that to be arrogant. I just say it's kind of how he's fashioned me. And I've come to terms with that over the years. But so I'm going to this Christian middle school. So 6th, 7th, 8th grade. I'm going to this Christian middle school. And in 8th grade, you guys remember like yearbooks? I feel like I'm sounding like super old, even though I'm only 35. But I don't know if they still do yearbooks now. But we had a yearbook, and I went to a small Christian school. Okay, so I'm in the small Christian school, and when I say small, I mean like I think my graduating class, my 8th grade like middle school graduation class was like maybe like 18 people, 20 people, I think. So we're having everybody like they're signing the yearbooks, right? And everybody's writing things down, and like I'm writing like this long post, because when we have only 18 members in your class and you've been with them throughout those 3 years for the majority of us, you have some good memories, right? And so I remember when I get home, I'm all excited because I'm looking through it, and like people are writing all these long posts. And what I realized was there was this continual thing that was being said in my yearbook was like, Bri, I wish I knew you better. Thanks for always being there for me. Bri, you were so supportive for me. I wish I could have been more supportive to you. And it really started to bother me a little bit because I realized, man, as much as I was trying to be present for other people, I really didn't let anybody ever be present for me. And whether that was intentional or not, I don't know, but I think I just got so used to being present, so used to being the one that people talked to, so used to being the one that people had conversations with, that I was like, oh, I'm good, I'm fine. And it was right when I was in my 8th grade year, when I was 13, that my family went through a few deaths in our family. Went through, like, I think 4 deaths in our family. My 2 baby cousins, my aunt passed away from cancer. Then my grandmother passed away after a surgery in her sleep. And so it was like the first time I had really had anything hit me like that hard in our family. Like, my life wasn't perfect. My parents actually did a beautiful job of actually shielding me for how difficult, life really was. And so I really didn't experience too much. But when these deaths happened back to back, and my family's a very close family, I was like, God, what are you doing? What are you doing? So this is like my 8th grade year. And I remember I still showed up to a Bible study one time that I think I was leading, and we were sharing prayer requests. And I went up to one of my friends, and I was like, man, I don't know why, I just feel real off today. And they were like, Bri, your grandma just died. And I was like, oh yeah, you're right. I did not have any type of processing mechanism for my own emotions. And I don't know why that was. I just didn't know how to process it. It's not that I came from an incredible family. My parents encouraged us to talk through how we felt. We cried. I just personally did not figure it out. And so when I'm presented with this yearbook at the end of my 8th grade year, I'm realizing, man, even in those moments, like one of the hardest moments in my life, I didn't really I didn't really lean on people that much. And I'm thinking, now that I'm saying that out loud, I'm wondering if it has to do with this moment. So again, this is my 8th grade year. My grandma had just passed. She's the last one that's passed in this this line of people who have passed away in my family. And I remember I was in my room, and I told the Lord, I said, I'm done. And honestly, I don't know. This sounds really dramatic now, looking back on it. But like, in my heart, I felt like what I was telling him was like, I feel like I'm a good person, and I feel like you're not showing up for me the way you should show up for me, because my family goes to church. I go to church. I'm serving you. Like, what are you doing? And so I just remember feeling so much pain. I didn't know how to process it. So I just said, I'm done. And I remember I was like punching my pillow, tears coming down my eyes. And I just said, you know what? I'm done with like actually trying to figure out whatever a relationship with you looks like, but I'll keep playing the part. So I'll keep going to church. Obviously I had to, you have no choice in my home. So I'm going to church. I'm going to keep going to school. I'm going to keep being the leader. I'm going to keep being present for everybody else. I'm going to keep praying for everybody else. But as for me, no, I'm good. And then I remember in that moment, I felt like the Holy Spirit said, turn to 1 Corinthians, or I think it's 2 Corinthians chapter 12. And you guys can fact check me, but I think it's 2 Corinthians chapter 12. So I'm turning there, and I get to verses 9 and 10, and it talks about, and I'm paraphrasing here because I don't know it by heart, but it talks about how God's strength is made perfect in our weakness. And I can't really describe to you what happened in that moment, aside from saying that I felt like the Holy Spirit just came in such a powerful way, with his peace. And there was just this certainty in my heart that was like, man, I'm still grieving. This is still very hard to handle, but like, God's not going to leave me here. And again, I can't really describe to you how I felt that, aside from just the power of his word. Literally, I had this moment where I was like, man, even in my weakness, his strength is literally going to be made perfect for me. And I think at that age, I was 12 or 13. I think that's when I would say I really gave my life to the Lord, because I was like, oh, like, you're like for real. like nobody had to lay hands on me. There was not this big explosion of emotion or anything. It was just this moment where I was like, oh, like, I can feel you like near me and bringing me peace, even in the midst of this chaos. And the fact that I wasn't even really seeking it. It wasn't like I was in my room being like, oh God, thank you, Jesus. Like, bring your presence. Like, I wasn't like seeking him at all. I was frustrated. I was mad. I was angry. I wanted nothing to do with him, yet he showed up in that moment. And so I think I was just floored by his kindness in just a very genuine way. Like, it wasn't anything that was manufactured by a service or a pastor or anybody laying hands. It was just me in this moment. And so I'm wondering, now that when I'm talking about like this period of time when I'm in 8th grade, I don't really know how to I'm realizing, I guess, that I don't know how to express emotion, and all my friends are writing, Bri, I wish I knew you better. I'm wondering if in that moment that I had this like overarching healing moment with the Lord, I'm wondering if that moment is what led me to be like, actually, I think I'm good. Like, I don't need anything else. I have his presence. So that makes sense. Like, I feel like it was like this real, perhaps naive approach, but also very genuine, childlike approach to Christianity, where it was like, oh, I have God, so I'm good. Like, I don't have to talk to you about all this stuff because I could just go to God. I don't have to like call you all the time about this because I have God. And so I think that might be part of what stopped me, I think, from really embracing community in the way that I feel like I was supposed to embrace a community. And I think sometimes we don't understand the beauty of childlike faith and also the beauty of community and how those things can go hand in hand. And so for me, I think I was just a kid, man. I was a kid trying to figure life out. But I would say that's the moment when I was 13 years old. That's the moment when I started following Christ for real. But when I also started trying to figure out, okay, what does that mean though? What does that mean in my relationships? What does that mean in my family? What does that mean in my home? What does that look like for me? And so, yeah, it's just, I'm so glad I talked about that out loud because, I think you guys helped me, process that a little bit. And I would love to hear your thoughts about, kind of your, regeneration experience or your experience with God, maybe the first time that you were like, man, he's for real. I would love to hear that, in the comments. Please type it out. I would love to read it, or send me a video message on my social media or something, or a voice memo. I'd love to hear what you have to say because I think it's important for us to remember the genesis of how, if you're a follower of Jesus, I think it's important to remember the genesis of how all this came about, especially because Christianity and church can get so convoluted and so chaotic and so political and so just terrible at times, with the way that us humans handle it, that I think sometimes we have to get back to a point of saying, okay, this is why I decided to follow Jesus. It was because of him. It was because of who he is. And so, okay, that's part one. I'm going to stop here because I don't want to make these too long, but that was part one of my story, kind of the moment that I experienced Christ for the first time. And I was like, okay, this God, he's real. And so come back because I can't wait to share more of my story and go on to part two. And I don't know how many parts it's going to be to this because, as you can see, as I'm talking, I'm having these revelations. And so together, we're going to have these revelations together. And I hope you're going to be along for the ride. I just share my heart with you and hope that you would also feel free to share your heart with me as well. So love y'all. We'll see you back here again for the next episode of the Elder Podcast.